welcome everybody here. Hope you have good holidays and ready for a new year. We'd like to begin by having a pledge led by Dwight, after which we have an opening prayer to be offered by Jim. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Heavenly Father, we are grateful for this evening and for this opportunity to be here as a planning commission. We're grateful for the opportunities to serve. As we begin this meeting this evening, we ask for thy blessings and thy help, and that we may be able to provide the service and the needs of the citizens of the city and our community. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ.
All right. We'd like to first move, understand it, item 2 has been pulled off. So we won't be discussing that tonight, but aside from that, we'd entertain a motion to adopt the amended agenda. The agenda item.
Also motion.
Second. Motion by Lindsay. Was that you, Dwight? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Agenda adopted. And then we'd like to go back to the minutes of the previous planning commission meeting, which has been long ago, and I can't do calculations very well.
It was December 10th.
December 10th. All right. Entertaining motion to adopt the minutes of the previous planning commission meeting held on December 10th.
I move that we adopt minutes of the previous planning commission meeting on December 10th.
All right. So motion by Dan, second.
I'll second.
Second by Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. That's approved. Okay, Spencer, previous meetings, anything we need to follow up on? It's been last night, what you got?
Yeah, I've got, I don't know if this mic is on now.
It's on top of it.
There we go. I think that's on now. I've got one item. So we had the short-term rentals ordinance go to city council last night. And several city council members had received some feedback on it from citizens in North Logan, just with some questions and concerns. And the consensus after last night's meeting was just, it would be good to sit down with them and anybody else, or have a phone call, work through anything. There's not necessarily a rush to get it approved. And so they wanted me to come back and see if there's anybody from Planning Commission that would like to sit in on any workshop type of meetings in the either next week or the week after, with a resident. If you feel like you want to sit in, you can. I'll probably attend. We have a couple city council members that wanted to be there. Alan will probably be there. And I wanted to just see if there were any commissioners that would like to be included in that as well. Not for sure. So, and I can reach out. I can send an email, and if anybody's available, they can tag along. All right, and that's it as far as follow-up items.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on then to agenda item number 1, which is consideration and possible recommendation of a concept plan for the IFA commercial subdivision. It's like 2 lots located in the GC zone at about 2250 North Main Street, where IFA is located. Spencer, can you give us an introduction?
All right, so I'll go there first. I can give an introduction to it. It's pretty straightforward concept plan. This was submitted along with the concept plan itself to staff and was reviewed by staff. This is looking at the property, IFA property at approximately 2200 North Main. Essentially, this would create another commercial pad or parcel there that could be sold or built on in this southwest corner of that property. Here's the concept plan diagram. So really straightforward. Most of the parcel or lot would stay with IFA, and this small chunk here would go into the building as part of the commercial subdivision. So with that commercial subdivision, this is essentially drawing the lot lines. When anything is developed on that corner, then it will go through our commercial building process with the design review and site plan review. And those things can kind of run concurrently as well. So that's the gist of it. I can quickly scan through the staff report we have here. So yeah, essentially, it's just splitting off that 3/4 of an acre. Most of the infrastructure is already in place. So most of the plans that we normally require would be waived for this portion. Grading and drainage would be done as part of the site plan as well. So with most of the infrastructure being in place, those things will be done when buildings are built on site rather than with the subdivision. The one thing that would need to be arranged is the utility hookups, and there's already been discussions with the engineer there. And then sidewalk and landscape along Main Street. That's the only major development requirement that's not in place already. And we spoke with the applicant on that, and we'll have to just get the details worked out at development plan. So that's the really one big thing to look at. Other than that, it's really straightforward. So with everything that's been submitted in the plan and the application, staff does recommend a positive recommendation to the city council on this subdivision. I'll go back to the plan.
This may be a little early in the game to ask, but just thinking through when it comes to parking for something like this, does it stay with one owner? Does there need to be enough property there to accommodate parking for this to be a totally independent type of setup?
Yeah, so they will, in the site plan, they will want to have and show enough parking in the, to be self-sufficient on their parcel. If there's not enough, there could be a shared parking agreement between the two, but I don't think that there's going to be an issue. It's based on square footage of the building as well. So there's plenty of parking at IFA for all of its uses. As you can see, the big parking lot in the back, with our parking requirements recently going down a little bit. But when site plans are brought in, we'll make sure that they have enough either on site or that there's a shared parking agreement of some sort.
Spencer, my initial thought was that we wanted to make sure that this would plans would comply with the recent developer approval of Main Street, landscaping, all of those kinds of things. The second question was, will there be public access from this Main Street sidewalk to the pad, depending on what kind of business is established, or will it mostly come from the parking lot that already exists there?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that will have to kind of be answered as we go a little bit further in. But yeah, as we go along, we've made sure to try and communicate the Main Street requirements or ordinance with that sidewalk, and then the trees as well, kind of the landscaping. We'll have to work in development plan to get that alignment and make sure that we've got it in the right spot, and that it'll work for both parties. As far as access to that building, yeah, once we get a site plan from whoever develops there, then the design review committee will be able to look at it, and engineering as well. I'm not sure if there'll be a sidewalk connection. There's not necessarily a requirement to have that, but they may end up choosing to do that.
There's already, if I'm not mistaken, as I drive by there, there's already some pads established, correct? Or is this, I noticed there's a sign that says pad is available or for sale or something like that.
Right.
Is this what we're talking about this year?
Yeah, so there's the space there, but it hasn't quite been formally subdivided off, and that's what this is doing. essentially. So.
So talking more about the Main Street design that we've talked over the last year,
Mhm.
is this and that's implemented when developers go vertical. So it's not something that's required as part of the subdivision, say.
It is required with the subdivision.
So that's where my follow-up question is, so because we're subdividing that entire parcel, is the requirement going to be for that Main Street development requirement going to go all the way across there?
Yes.
Okay.
The frontage of the parcel.
Okay.
And there's more than one business there then, right?
Yep. Yeah, I think they've got IFA in the front, and then there's a call center, I think, in the back. So yeah.
And they're all on board with this as well?
Yeah, IFA owns the building and the land, so they're the applicant. The call center is just a tenant.
Any other questions, concerns? All right. Okay, well, sounds like we're looking for a recommendation, a positive or negative recommendation.
I'll move that we make a positive recommendation for this concept plan.
Okay, so motion by Lindsay and second by Nan, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Recommendation passes, I should say. All right, well, let us move on then to our next item of business, which is consideration and possible recommendation of the Bear River Region Pre-Disaster Mitigation Plan.
Yeah. So I will open this up and talk to it a little bit. Alan may need to step in at some points. He knows a lot about it as well. So essentially, this resolution it's for a pre-disaster mitigation plan. The Bear River Association of Governments has been working on this, and we've been kind of collaborating. Several different agencies have been collaborating on it. And this resolution would adopt the plan, which helps the cities identify needs before disasters, as in the title, and then also helps with funding to fund different things related to those needs of preparation. So yeah, it's a pretty lengthy plan, 98 pages. They have a website as well that you can scroll through in a viewer. But tonight, basically from the Planning Commission, it's just getting a recommendation to the City Council. The Land Use Authority in North Logan is the Planning Commission and the City Council both. So it comes to both parties. And we're hoping to be able to get this plan adopted in City Council by the end of February, I think is the deadline for us to do it. So yeah, that's kind of a lowdown. I don't know how much we want to dive in, or if you have anything to add to that, Alan.
No, one of the strategies on this is that it helps guide some of our code as far as pre-disaster setup for developmental code. And also enables us to receive actual grants and funding through FEMA-related grants if we have this in place. It closely ties with a lot of our existing code, related to fault lines, related to steep slopes, related to flood potential. So it falls in line with those, but it's a very lengthy, comprehensive study about it.
So let me ask the question, and not that I'm contemplating this, but if we were to not recommend this plan, what does that mean? How does that impact the city?
Yeah, I want to follow on. I think that's a really good question. I'm trying to understand what is this? What is it? Like, what's the advantage to having this plan? What kind of disasters?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think Alan already mentioned one of the advantages.
Yeah.
It's possible for grants and payment, things like that.
Well, but what does it require of the city?
Right. Basically, what we had to do is we had to look through our infrastructure and kind of identify different points, weaknesses, where infrastructure is, identify needs. I think it's a good, clean way if you have a plan for FEMA to identify needs and do grant money. So it's not like we sign into this and there's a fee to it or an annual membership or anything like that, but it's an organized thing for all the communities. As far as disasters that it covers, it went through several floods, fires, earthquakes, many different natural disasters that could happen. And for each of those, there were kind of different mitigation or infrastructure needs that were identified. So generators could be one of them. There were just different infrastructure in different places, and making sure we're prepared for these different disasters. Essentially, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is. It goes over all the different areas. It's kind of in our code already, but then it just identifies areas where we need to look, or we need to be careful, or we need to have redundancy. It even goes into like wetland mitigation, which we already have our wetlands delineated, but then soils of liquefaction potential, or they're unsuitable soils kind of in the lower areas west of Main Street, I would say. It goes through every single kind of portion of the disasters that could take place that would be eligible for FEMA funding. So by having this in place, it gives us that ability to apply for FEMA funding if we do have a disaster in place. Or for grants to be more on the preparedness side. It's more of a proactive approach for funding. So if we needed a backup generator for one of our water wells, this would be the source for that. If we needed some flood protection, if we needed a fire break on the shoreline trail, this could help fund that. We would be eligible for the funding of that.
So how does this get used in 6 months or a year?
I think we would start working with the Bear River Association of Governments and start identifying those areas where we could be eligible for funding. So like the bottom of the shoreline trail, we would be eligible at that point. If there's studies that need to be done, we could be eligible at that point. We just identify those things that would be eligible in the coming weeks and months. I think most of the other cities in the valley have already adopted this, that participated or are adopted. Just so they're eligible for those funds.
We probably hope we would never have to use it. Use this plan, implement it, but it would cover public service, utilities, fire, police, who is responsible for what under what circumstances that might exist.
Yes, that's part of our, it kind of overlaps what you described with our emergency response plan or our emergency operations plan. This one really covers a lot of the natural disasters that we could have. Ones that would be eligible for funding beforehand to prevent disasters, and then funding afterwards if we do have a disaster. So one example that we looked at was a flood. The area of flooding potential in North Florida is somewhat limited, kind of Green Canyon. Some of the areas around some of the canals, and then 2200 north, when we kind of swapped boundaries with Logan, shortly after that, we inherited the road that goes west of Holiday Inn Express. And in 2013, when that area flooded, it completely took out that road. The flood that went through there just washed out the road. I've never seen that before. And so, had we worked with this beforehand and identified that as something that had flood potential, we would have been eligible for that FEMA funding of that.
I think my only hesitation is that this is such a comprehensive document, like how, upon what do we base our positive recommendation?
I'm seeing this for not very long, so I have not read it.
And I'm not suspicious at all. I'm really not. I want to do my due diligence before we say, yeah, we can look this over and we think everything's great.
Yeah, I think, and Alan can jump in here too. The way I understand it is it needs to be, they're trying to get it passed by the end of February, last meeting in February.
Yeah, and so that does buy us a little bit of time, just kind of introduction to it, and if
Yeah,
you want some time to read through it.
we could take another meeting if needed.
I think that'd be best, just so that we can say that we do have time to actually look over what we're rubber stamping.
Yeah.
So we're not understanding.
Yeah.
Yep, and I'd be happy to sit down, Alan and I would, or Craig Humphreys. He's on the city council. He probably would be willing to talk through it with you as well.
You can even set up a Zoom meeting with, then Zach Covington, who's been kind of the key point of the River Association of Government, been the key point, kind of coordinating between all of the different agencies. For disaster mitigation with the state, FEMA, the floodplain manager, state, and FEMA, all of the different things. He's the key point of contact, and he could probably be in a Zoom call as well, that could go over some of the ins and outs of the study, and you can ask him all your questions, he could answer all of them.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd be willing to attend the traditional meeting as long as, but I think we should take that time.
I think the most important thing is just get us something we can look at, even before any meeting.
And I think the document's there.
Yeah, I'm using the document, right? That's an email that Spencer sent us, but
Yeah.
it is 98
Does
pages.
that come out this afternoon?
Yeah.
I had it in the folder earlier, but I didn't send email with the link to it until just today, just as a kind of heads up for the meeting. So yeah, if we take another couple weeks, I can also get a meeting with Zach Covington if needed, and it could be a Zoom call or something, just question and answer.
Yeah, and if you're concerned that the city council will ask for a similar heads up, we can have a joint meeting.
Okay.
essentially. You know, just because I would assume they have a similar reactions with us. And this isn't suspicion, it's just due diligence.
Right. Yeah. Great.
I think at that time, I just want to make sure we've gone through it and had that time to look. Make sure we say, yep, you know what we got in here. So with that, we push that on to our next meeting as an agenda item.
Yes. Yep. I'll get it on the agenda for next meeting, and I'll talk with Zach as well, see if he wants to do a prep. And I know there's a website with the plan in there as well where it's organized also. So we've got that document, and if I have any other information, I'll forward it on.
Wonderful. So we can be reading, and then in the meantime, we'll be going on to help us learn. All right. Okay, any other discussion needed on that agenda item? Okay, well, let's move on to, looks like our last listed agenda item, discussion of the required number of stories for townhomes in city center zones.
Right. Yeah. So I'll introduce this, and then I can let Alan also take the lead as well on it. So this is kind of continuing to follow up from our discussion last meeting, if you can remember back that far, December 10th. So yeah, just talking about the townhomes. Right now, we don't have much that's zoned for townhomes, but just the height requirement. Currently, they can be 2 to 3 stories, and just asking the question in city center zones if it should be a minimum of 3 stories. I know we wanted some time and information onto why that would be a better choice to make, I guess. So I don't know if you have anything, Alan, you want to go over.
No. Sorry. We went over this last time. Sorry, there aren't a lot of updates at this point. But just going through this table, as you look at this, I think some of the key points that we're looking at when we developed the city center code, and I wasn't heavily involved when they started this. They started this several years ago, going through the city center code, revamping everything. And their key aspect that they're looking for is two things: quality and timeless and they really carried that through the city center. They wanted it to have a Main Street feel. Main Street feel, meaning, drive down, you think of the traditional Main Street. Logan has a very traditional Main Street, drive through that area. And as they looked at that, they looked at timeless features. You notice a lot of the exterior packaging great, stone that required a lot of glass. In this area. Another aspect that we started looking at, as we looked at, with several developers, was the 3-story aspect. There's no way to achieve that. We looked at all of our photos, and it was actually Casey Memorial. There are several of our photos. And coincidentally, when you look through the photos in our city center code, I think 90% of them are 3-story buildings. I don't think he did that on purpose. I think when he was trying to set it up, it's just how it laid out. 3-story. If you look at to these points, that's kind of what you're looking at. I mean, you can do things like lower crime risk. It preserves value longer. There's a timeless component to it. The one thing I want to talk about is the less transient nature. When your townhomes get a little bigger, or if they're 3-story, that's one of the things that people tend to say about townhomes. It's what's in our city as well, and we see it in a lot of townhomes, is that while they're becoming more and more popular for people to live in for several years, it used to just be the people living for 2 or 3 years, but now they live in for a little bit longer. The 3-story become more of a home that people live in for several years. Maybe a permanent nature at that point, it jumps to that next level. And that's what we're looking for. That actually, believe it or not, saves costs for the city too. Less turnover in the city, less transient nature. Even saves administrative time and costs that we incur. So it's kind of a win. And this is somewhat biased when you look at a table. Obviously, we went through, but then you start looking at negatives. It's really just there's some higher upfront costs for developers. That's the negative. And then the multiple stories for someone who may not want to climb up multiple stories of stairs. Those are the 2 negatives we looking at this time. So you look at that, and then if you want to scroll through, you can look at several cities. They're not mostly just taken from Google Street View. As you go through, these are just in every one of the cities, the newer companies that are coming in. Each of those cities, they're 3 stories. The other thing it does is you'll see even like a live work component that we've looked at. Maybe a business on bottom, and then a living space above. And the only difficulty right now with our live work units is that maybe they might have a more livable area than 2 stories above the business on bottom. What's funny is as soon as the live work unit, they figured out the lending, they all sold within a matter of months. We kind of sat there making for about 6 months. As soon as the lending was figured out, it was about 2 months till all of them were sold in our current area. So, and that ties into the city center area. So yeah, look at those. These are the city center photos that Casey kind of brought as examples that are 3-story. Again, I don't have much more than we discussed last time. And right now, we're not looking for an approval for 3-story. It's not to say this is what we're doing, we're going to run with it. It's kind of a head nod to say, should we explore this? We even draft up maybe just something that might be something the planning commission could look at, scrutinize, see if it's something to move forward. But that's basically what we're looking at. The last time we just had a brief conversation. It was kind of tough because we were via Zoom, I think, last meeting. But if you have any other comments that you can take, or if you don't want to move forward, just either way, it's fine.
I think the most persuasive thing to me is that with the design review process, as you said, the example pictures are all with that 3-story option. And I think that the more clarity that we can give to the city center code, the better. Because if that in effect is what we're going to require when people come in and say, we want something more, we want something modern, then I think it's good to be upfront about what we're going to be asking for, rather than sending it back and sending it back and being like, what we really want to see is 3 stories, guys. So I'm inclined to proceed with this. There are some 3-story ones that the example pictures that I think aren't great. So I don't think it's the magic bullet, but I do think that for such a small area, we discussed it a little bit last time. For such a small area, I think it's okay to have such a specific code.
I like the concept of 3 stories. I like Lindsay's comments. I think the pros outweigh the cons a lot in that. And having lived in a 3-story townhouse for lots, I can see the advantages there and keeping people there longer. So I'm with Lindsay. I think let's draw up something and let's decide.
Key point there, too, talking about administratively, in the clarity. In the past, it's been kind of tough. I mean, there's still some wiggle room. We want to leave some wiggle room in there for developers to have several options. This is what it can look like within those parameters. But if I were a developer, I would want something a little bit more clear when they come in to say, I mean, the worst thing they want to say is, we'll know when we see it. But that's exactly kind of what we feel when the developer comes in, they bring their design and say, well, we see it. I've said it, I mean, I think we've been in meetings when we talked about it. But we do want a little bit more clarity. Like we want to say, within these parameters, have at it, but this is clearly what we're looking for.
So that's really clear if we say 3 stories.
Yeah.
That's pretty clear. So we can discuss that.
Could you bring the zoning map up?
Yeah.
Shows,
Mhm.
just again, review which areas.
Yeah, so right now, the only zones this would apply to that we're looking at right now is the city center zone allows townhomes. So if that's used as one of the building types, it'd be the city center adjacent zone. City center adjacent, I think it just said city center there. And then the MR7 and MR8 zones, MR7 and MR8, those are the zones that have townhomes in them. So it's for specifically the townhome building type. Those are the zones which it's found. Currently, all of those zones, all the land in those zones is developed, accounted for. So this is for if we use those zones other places. If something's rezoned to city center adjacent or rezoned MR7 or MR8, that's when this would come into play. So it's not even for any currently vacant land, but there likely will be rezones using those zones in the future. This is where it would apply.
That big component you see right here, there's a smaller parcel around it, maybe CCC, that might be rezoned in the future, request rezone, but have those, but hospital, open with the property owners there, the likelihood of that is very slim. In fact, the probably look at selling it sometime in the future, at that time, that would have to be rezoned to something else other than hospital. It wouldn't remain in that zone at that time.
Any housing around it right now is 2 stories. That's talking about lifestyle.
Yeah, I think those are all 2 stories. Our code currently says it needs to be between 2 and 3. And so if you give a sliding scale of something that you want from good to better, it's usually going to end up on the lower end of that scale. So they ended up all 2 stories. But yeah, this would make it just so it's just 3. It's a little more clear.
I think if we're trying to make a statement in the city center concept, the 3-story minimum, I think will help achieve that. This is more of a city center and other things already around it. 2 stories or maximum 2 stories currently. I'm in favor of going for the 3 stories.
Just, it wasn't clear to me, it's the city center and city center adjacent, or is it townhomes across the board?
So it's townhomes in the city center zones.
Okay.
So city center zones, city center adjacent, and then MR7 and 8.
Yeah.
The other zones that could have townhomes is our mixed use zones and also our RM, residential multifamily zones. Those two aren't city center zones, but allow townhomes. This wouldn't apply to those. But
What was those zones?
mixed use and residential multifamily, those are in the same boat as those city center zones we discussed. Anything that's zoned that is already built to either apartments or townhomes as is. So that's in the same boat where something would have to be rezoned to that zone for townhomes to be built. But if that was the case, then they wouldn't be held to that 3-story, just the city center ones.
Yeah. So I came into this meeting the last month ago or whatever, when we talked about this late, and shake your head out. First time in my life. Anyway, and of course I came in right at the end of that conversation. So I thought a lot about that, and my number one thing that I'm in favor of is being really clear. I've been on the other side, and the developer side, and that's always hard when you're throwing darts at the target that's all over. So I really like the clear definition. I also, and that plays into this distinct thing that we're trying to accomplish with the city center area. I know I've had some frustration with what the design really is. So this definitely helps that, and I'm in support of that, being clearly defined. I'm also, I like the positives that you've shared, and I agree. I'm involved in a development that's going on in Salt Lake County right now. And the research that's being done with the generations that are coming up, I couldn't wait to have a house and a yard and those sorts of things. And the idea of having a yard is interesting to the generations that are coming. It's kind of an overall assumption that I'm making out there. But there's a lot of demand for that longer term. And so I see that advantage with those bigger units. And so I would support doing that in those zones as you described it.
And just a quick tour around the campus. There's many builders who are even more than 3 stories in their property. So it seems that 2 versus 3 is well within the realm of contractors and builders in our area already. It'll be a problem to get builders. Why? I guess you could even go as finite as saying we want this to be a early American style or architectural. This is what we want to do, but that may be too close.
That was one of the debates when they started going through it. They said, how many are we going to go in trying to achieve this great 3-story Main Street when they talked about it? They kind of went that direction and they scaled back a bit. They kind of got back and forth a little bit on those standards. Still maintain that timeless or that quality standard is what they're looking for. You guys brought up another very good point, the mixed use of the residential or the RM zone, the MX zones that we've had in the past that all played well. Those are 2-story townhomes, which are great. But they, if you scroll back up, sorry, Spencer,
Where are we looking?
both of those areas were not to have a Main Street feel. They're not intended to have some of these other features. The city center zone, that was the intent, and that is the intent. So they both admit that they meet the zones where they're located. And that's just my personal opinion.
Where were you wanting me to look?
Sorry, on that sheet.
Oh, on the sheet. Oh, yeah.
The city center. Those don't really apply to the RM zone. They're housing and they're mixed use projects and it's not intended to be a Main Street deal when you go into those projects.
Yeah, no, this is great. All the feedback, and it sounds like people want to go forward with. I can get a draft ordinance that we can then act on if we decide to. But it was just deciding if we wanted to go that direction or not.
A question for John. From the firefighting standpoint, going up one more floor, did it adversely affect or make much difference to you?
It doesn't make any difference. We have ladder trucks in the center of the facility.
Yeah, ladders, ladder trucks, our guys can come upstairs. They're good. Yeah, we have 2 ladder trucks at our disposal, so we're good that way, but it's just like anything else, it's 3 stories. We have a lot of houses that are 3-story. So it's not gonna change us on how we do our tactics.
One thing that's good that we can, John's extremely good at this, right, that I can, as building with updates as fire standards increase, it just increases safety at that point. Regardless of how many stories there are, safety continues to increase with each year with building standards. As far as fire.
As far, yeah, the UL list and all that kind of stuff does also, but it's, when you start talking fire, it's actually worse because of all the stuff you put in it, so.
What about water pressure with the 3 stories?
They should
Tap pressure?
Yeah, you're thinking about, it's actually every 2 feet in general is 1 PSI. So if you go up another 10 feet, it's 3 or 4 PSI in that. In general, most of our pressures throughout the city controls the pressure zone. They'll fluctuate between about 60, 50 PSI on the farthest low end. You want to stay above the low, the minimum for fire code standards. It's actually a little bit above that. And we never get it all the way down to that minimum standard. Then they'll go as high as about 120 to 130 PSI. And in this area here, I think we are around 100 PSI. So that's a good point. If we were in a low pressure zone, we should be okay.
All right, I think overall then, maybe more good one than most of the rest, and we're going to go along and take a look. So it sounds like there's impetus there to move forward. Do some things.
Yeah, and then we'll just start in a probably slower process. We'll just make sure we'll bring some back to the planning commission and just see if it makes sense at that point. We'll scrutinize some very rough draft code.
Great.
Okay. So that was our agenda item number 4. Now 3. Any other discussion or business that we need to attend to?
I don't have anything else for us tonight.
All right.
You'll let us know.
I'll let you know about that the short-term rental workshop if we have that. So what was it?
All right.
I will motion that we adjourn then.
Okay, what's that in here? Where's that?
I'll second.
Second by Nan, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Jeff, I will make it on this time.
What's that file from Boston?
I missed Jeff on the email,
You're just
but to be fair, I did send it out to him before. He had plenty of time.
Yeah.
This is what happens if you don't miss, if you're always on time.
Yeah,
You're late one time, you're never gonna hear the end of it. Alan is just beside, it's the greatest thing that ever happened to him, I think.